Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator. Here on America's Next, I have Annie Kosher here with me today. How you doing, Annie?
I'm doing really well, Cedric. Thank you so much for having me.
That's great. That's great. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling awesome. It's always a
That's
good day.
great.
Every day is a good day.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, we have somebody in the building today who is a tremendous story. And there's going to be something here for each and every one of you. So I want you to let somebody know that we're in for a great discussion today. And we already got comments coming into the building. Rose Hensley says here. So we know we got somebody watching. Listen, guys, just give me a second. My head is cut off in the screen. Let me scoot back a little bit. They say, Cedric, why don't you ever scoot back out of your camera? I say, listen, I'm into this episode. That's why. Give me a second. Let me see if I can scoot it back a little bit here. All in the camera. So, Annie, can you tell me a little bit about where you're from?
Yeah, I'm Canadian, and my family's from South India, a state called Kerala, and we initially migrated to the U.S. And we were in Boston, and then we moved from Boston to Toronto. I live in a city outside of Toronto. We call the satellite cities of Toronto the Greater Toronto Area, and I'm living in Brampton here in Toronto. So,
wow. So you've lived all over those areas in Canada. What was it like for you growing up there?
it was great. I didn't know anything different. So I think for me, just having the ability to grow up, I think for me, the first time that I noticed there was some difference was when I had become an adult, and in one stage of my life, I had moved back to India, and I had lived there for 15 years. That's when I realized how different living in Canada really was, because that's when I realized as a woman how much freedom I had of choice, of movement, of being able to be independent, all of those components that we take for granted. When you don't have them any longer, you start to go, wow, okay, this is something special here. This is not available always around the world with the same ease that we have here.
Can you talk about some of the differences that you saw when you went back to India?
Yeah, initially when I went, I think it was the struggle when I was putting my firstborn son into school at that time. The actual application form had no details requested for the mother. It was just the father's details.
Wow.
And I found that, number one, so unusual. And I almost felt like I was this tacked on additional thing that was not really needed. Right?
Yeah.
Yet when we think about it, the mother is the one that gives birth to a child. The mother is the giver of life, and so essential, especially in early childhood for children, to have that. And here it was, one of the major milestones in your child's life is to enter into kindergarten, and the kindergarten application didn't really need the mom there. The other thing that I found very unusual, here as females, we can go to any government office, whether it's to get your license, whether it is to renew something, whether it is that you need to have a mortgage application, whatever it is. We have the choice to be able to go in there. We don't need anyone to come with me. You fill out a couple of forms, you meet with an advisor, and you get your stuff done. Mm-hmm. Well, in India, the form, either as a female, you had to have your father's name or you had to have your husband's name on it. And that, again, was really, really unusual. And for someone who was more about, I'm not a feminist, I'm more about being equal to both people. And there was definitely some equality issues here that I had an issue with. So those are some things that sort of stuck out in my mind. The other aspect was that I wasn't used to, when we visited people's houses, where the women were taken into the inside room or into the kitchen or into a back bedroom, and they were sort of given a space to sit there and chat and whatever. I would normally, when I used to visit with my partner at the time, I would go and plunk myself on the sofa with the rest of the people that were there. And that was unusual, Cedric, because the men didn't know what to make of me. I was so unusual. But I found it more intellectually stimulating to have a conversation about what's happening, with life and everything outside and politics or whatever it was that they were discussing, I found that more intellectually stimulating than to be talking about, okay, what did we make for lunch today, or what did we do with our children yesterday, or that wasn't really that what vibed with me. And that itself was very unusual. The fact that I just was very comfortable being able to hold a conversation with the men and be fine with it. Mm-hmm. They didn't find it so fine, right? That was unusual.
So here on our continent, you are somewhat normal in a sense of highly educated, highly competitive, highly competent, could sit at any table you would like. But when you go to different places internationally, you're almost like too powerful for people to say, hold on, you're not too powerful, but based on the traditional cultural norms that are there, it's like, whoa, we're not used to a woman being in this form of authority.
Right. Well, I think that it's a matter of not even going internationally. I think that my story of being someone who speaks her mind and it has the courage to talk and has the courage to share and has the courage to motivate, I think that is now accepted. I've reached a certain amount of success in my life where my words or my work stands on its own. I don't need to prove myself any longer. But there was a time, and not so far away, long ago, that whatever I said, I stood out like a sore thumb. I stood out like a sore thumb in my community. I stood out like a sore thumb amongst, a lot of the positions where I held. I was the only female in an entirely male-dominated sort of leadership role. And to speak my mind, it was not because I came and spoke it because of my experience or my expertise. It was viewed upon as me speaking it, and I was the female gender speaking it, right? And that's different. When you start to get accepted, not because of which gender you are, but rather because of the caliber of leadership that you're bringing to the table, the caliber of content that you're bringing, or intelligence, or ability to lead that you're bringing to the table, then you're starting to speak where you don't have to prove yourself any longer, right? And that's what's changed for me, I think, over the years, Cedric, is that right from when I was a child, I believe I stood out in ways that at that time made me feel very uncomfortable.
Give me an example.
Well, I come from a very academic family, and the academic side, even though I'm good at what I do, but I was not good at mathematics. I was not good at science. My family was all predominantly science and mathematics. I was more arts focused, and arts in my community is seen as a hobby and not as a career. Becoming someone in media was not something that was an option. So it was not a career that my parents or my community really supported. So the fact that I'm doing that today, it was because one day I put my foot down and I said, that's what I want to do. And I couldn't care less whether someone supported me or not. I decided that I was going to do it, and I was going to do it for myself. That sets me apart right away. That sets me apart from the sea of mediocrity, because forget my community, forget being Indian. I think that sets you apart in a sea of mediocrity from just everyday people, right? When you're able to step beyond those boundaries that hold you back of fear, and you're able to speak your voice and speak your mind and live your life according to how you feel like you want to live it, then there is no other power over you that's going to be controlling you. You're navigating your own life. And that's where things changed for me.
Absolutely. When you began to take that step outside of mediocrity, outside of norms, wherever you were going in life, did you find yourself having a smaller circle? Did you become more isolated?
Oh my gosh. I thought I was an alien. Gosh. I thought that, first off, I felt I was adopted, or I had been orphaned, and that my real parents, I would say, I hope you come and find me because I don't feel like I belong here. My love languages were different than my parents. My outspokenness was not viewed as being knowledgeable, but rather being, we have this sort of unspoken saying, children are to be seen but not to be heard. It's very true in our community. When an adult speaks or an elder speaks, whether you agree with them or not, you just go along with it. And there I was. If something didn't make sense in my head, I questioned it. Because if I needed to go along with you, it had to make sense in my head. And if it didn't make sense, I couldn't come along. I didn't agree with it. So that was a big problem. Yeah, I felt very different. I felt isolated, not in the sense, I always had people around me, but isolated in my thinking, isolated in my vision, and isolated in what my heart was telling me to do. So I was at crossroads, really, Cedric, for a long time in my life, where my inner self, my soul was telling me to be one way, and my environment was telling me that I had to conform. And I could not see for the life of me why I needed to do that. And that was really, really hard. I think it's a challenge when you're a child going through teenage years, where you really just want to fit in. You just want to be like everyone else. You just want to be part of the crowd. What happens when you're a little different? What happens when you feel like you're an old soul, like you've lived this before, that what they're talking about doesn't make sense, or what they're telling you to do, it seems trivial? Well, I felt like that. And I felt for the longest time I didn't have people who really understood me. It's really just been when I started saying I didn't care what other people thought or said about me, and I started living true to myself and being authentic about who I am, that the right people came to me. So
what was the time frame in your life where you felt like you were having thoughts about who you wanted to be, and you were at a fork in the road of acceptance? What time frame in your life was that?
Oh, I went through several moments in my life where I went through that. I think every moment where I put my foot down and a little bit more of my true personality shone out, that was a moment where I was becoming more and more authentic. But the true change only happened 3 or 4 years back. The true change where I put my foot down and made that break from tradition into more of a modern way of thinking, or perhaps a more authentic way of thinking, happened only, I would say, in the recent past. Now, those changes are not easy to make, because when I did make that change, it meant that I had to sacrifice things that were very, very important to me. But I realized one thing, Cedric, that it was one day that I woke up, and this is really a message for all the young people. I woke up and I realized that I had lived more life than I had left to live. And when I woke up and I realized that, it was when the stark reality of the fact that we have just one life to live. You don't have a redo. You can't press rewind. You can't stop time. In my head, I'm still 16 years old. That's where I am. I'm still that girl with those pipe dreams and looking at life with rosy glasses, expecting and hoping for the best and the best. That's still, what I hope. But the reality of it is that life has marched, time has marched, and I have a fixed number of years, maybe a couple of decades, where I'm going to be all right in my ability to move around, in my cognition, in my ability to articulate my thoughts. It's quite possible I only have a couple of decades left. And then that's when I realized, Cedric, that I needed to do the things that were on my bucket list. And that's when I took out that crumpled piece of paper that I had shoved into the back of my mind and realized that I needed to look at those things that I had written down, whether I was a young girl in my, before I hit teenage, whether it was a teenage girl and I had written down, oh, I want to do this in life, or whether it was that young adult and I had said, I want to achieve this as one of my milestones. And I had forgotten all of those things.
Yeah. Right? Now, millions of people out here in the world, and I want to be clear that for our audience members and people who watch this episode in retrospect, that the things that we're talking about today are applicable from the beginning to the very end of your life. It's never too late for you to get into the position of your most authentic self. And that's where self-development, personal development, confidence, and growth is relevant. Can you talk to us about when you understood the value of the term authenticity? When was your first time hearing the word authenticity, and when did it gain real meaning in your life?
I think that I have always strived to be authentic, and I didn't realize that that was what I was trying to do. My personality is such that when you talk to me, what you get is what you see, and I think it was termed as being outspoken. It was termed, people categorize you into what they need in their bucket list of things, their pots of where they put people. They need to say, okay, this person is like this and that person is like this. And you put people into these pots. Well, I didn't fit into that pot. What are you going to do when you come across someone whose nature, whose personality, whose ability, whose drive doesn't fit into your pot? And I didn't fit into those pots. And I think I decided that I was just not going to be afraid of speaking my mind any longer. I was going to just stand up for it. And I was going to be respectful about it, but I was also going to be true to myself, true to my own thing. I stopped asking for validation in everything that I did. And that's a first step.
Yeah, I think that that's absolutely huge, because so many people in this life, they never gain that courage to do what you seem to have done automatically and innately, which is to be your authentic self, no matter where you are and where you're going. But so many people struggle with that. They struggle with it because of the narratives that you get from the media, the narratives that you get from whatever your positional society may be. And you get to the point where your heart is different from your life, and you have the audacity to be your heart, throughout your life. And from my perspective, that makes you gifted, because most people, they don't do that, and that's part of what makes you an inspiration. So now I want to know, what were your thoughts when you saw authenticity as a movement? When you heard people saying, "Hey, I have a big idea. Be your authentic self." When did you recognize that movement, and how did it impact your attitude?
Oh my gosh. I didn't even realize that this was something that I was going to actually be called upon to speak on, because I didn't realize that other people valued what it is that I had to say. For the longest time, I didn't believe in me. I didn't believe in me because I was expecting other people to believe in me. And when they didn't, my entire validation had been wrapped up in them. And so I wasn't validating myself. The first step really to make that change was to believe and have gratitude and appreciation for myself. You have to love yourself before anyone else can love you. I think that is such a prime motivator for yourself. It's when I was on my own. I had left a long-term relationship and I was stuck here on my own, and I was crying. I was a public personality, and there I was, broken. I had no one to see those tears, and day in and day out, unless I was on stage, I was left to my own thoughts. Mm-hmm. And you have two ways to think in life, right? You can allow what's going on around you to smother you, because I'm telling you, there are going to be situations and opportunities and people that are going to constantly try to smother you. And they're going to try and snuff out that light in you. Or you're going to believe in yourself, and you're going to drive yourself. You're going to motivate yourself, because if you don't motivate yourself, you know that no one else is going to motivate you. So you got to be your own drive. You've got to be your own push. You've got to be your own cheerleader. You got to be your own coach. And so that's when you start pushing, and you see what your potential is. When you believe in your potential, you believe in who you are, you believe in your vision, you know, when you close your eyes at night that you have a purpose, and you know that you have that ability. That's when you start making that change. So really your life is at crossroads when you come to these moments that are or possibly able to crush you. Is you either allow it to crush you, or you say, you know what? No sweat. I'm going to be like a duck. I'm going to let it roll off my back and I'm going to move on. All right. So this boulder showed up in my path. No big deal. I'm going to go around it. I'm going to go around it or under it or over it. I'm going to crush it. Whichever way it is that you're going to get through that moment, if you don't do it, how do you expect anyone else to be able to motivate you? You got to look at yourself in the mirror and you got to fall passionately in love with yourself. You got to fall in love with the person that you are. That means you fall in love with the good, the bad, the mediocre, when you're not in a good mood and you're grumpy, when you're thrilled and you're happy, when you're accomplished, when you're unaccomplished. All those components of yourself will drive you to realize that every facet of yourself is lovable.
Absolutely. That's
every
huge.
aspect, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm loving this conversation, and let's see what sorts of comments we're getting in the building. Jason Matthew says, nice to hear you, Annie Koshi. Good job. Rose Hensley says, don't let anyone dull your shine. Yolanda Riley's in the building. And so people are really appreciative of the conversation that we're having today. And I want to take it here. As I've said, I think that your experience is one that millions of people can relate to. And what I see happening is that people, they follow a path that's been laid out to them through one narrative or another, and their validation becomes wrapped up in the path that they chose. And so for you, you said, there was so much validation that you got from being on stages, let's say, pre-COVID or whenever it was that you had this fork in the road, right? You're getting validation from the maybe it might be your occupation, or it might be something otherwise than what it should be. Is giving you validation. I think a lot of people are there. And I want to know, what role did the mirror play for you to begin to get validation from yourself?
Yeah, I think that when you wake up every morning with gratitude for the simplest things, when you are grateful for a roof over your head, or you are grateful to have the ability to get up and walk around, you're grateful to have a place where you can eat your meal or have food on the table. You're grateful for your children, for the hugs, for their warm arms around your neck. You're grateful for a partner, a spouse, someone that you can rely on, a best friend, whoever it is that you wake up in the morning and you say good morning to. You're grateful for that. You're grateful for the small things. It could be that you have the ability to get into a car and drive. You're grateful for that car. You're grateful for the ability that you are able to sleep at night and sleep soundly, because there are people in the world who don't have that ability. They live in such turmoil that even sleep is disturbed. You're grateful, for this. For me, it was a gratitude that I had for every single thing that I started to. When you start to live your life with gratitude, you're going to reap in the blessings that you don't even realize that you were missing in your life. And that's really what's happened is, every interaction that you have with every single person, you leave that person feeling better than when you got them. Mm-hmm. It's not to say that you don't have grumpy moments, that you're not upset with people, that you don't have times when you're not feeling yourself. Gosh, I know people who can't even have a decent conversation in the morning without having a cup of coffee, right? So, it really depends. But when you think about it and you think about all the things that we really have in our lives, we realize in COVID right now, in the last 8-9 months, just look at how many clothes you have. How many clothes have you actually worn?
That's right.
We have closet fulls of stuff. Yeah. And we realize that we really don't need it. Mm-hmm. You're living off of 5 shirts, 3 pants. You don't need the 50, 20, 30, 100 dresses that you have in your closet, because there's nowhere to go right now. Mm-hmm. And that's when you realize how much stuff you really have. We've got these humongous homes. We've got all of these assets. We've got all of these things. We've got all of these things that we've hoarded. And you realize that what we don't have is humanity.
Absolutely. And what I want to add to that is this. So many of us, we get humanity out of everybody else, the places that we get to go, as opposed to retrieving the humanity that was deposited in us when we were born. And so when you become the type of adult that is getting validation from all these different places, the problem with that is that it's empty because people are only there for either a finite reason or a finite amount of time. But your need for validation spans the entire 24 hours of the day. And my primary objective is to motivate youth in a foster care system. And I know that they don't even get the exposures that result in validation from where they get to go, because everywhere they go, oh, you're a foster kid. Oh, you are at a disadvantage, or you don't have the proper support. Let me treat you like you don't have the proper support. So they don't even have the option of seeking validation from their surroundings far too often.
Right.
Now, that's applicable to the whole wide world, because what you have to do at some point, and this is what you talked about, Annie, is you have to get into the mirror and you have to tell your own narrative to yourself. And that's the victorious moment here, is that what I hear you encouraging people to do, Annie, is to have a conversation with themselves that may be different from whatever discouraging reality might be outside your four walls. Doesn't matter where you are in life. Listen, go get into a mirror. Seriously, a lot of people, they'll hear this conversation, but they won't go to the bathroom and have a conversation with themselves and change the narrative. Once this conversation is finished, somebody somewhere should be getting into the mirror and saying, you know what? I can achieve my dreams.
Very true. What you said is so true.
Absolutely. I can overcome my fears. And we're going to talk about fear in a minute. I can overcome discouragement that I've faced in my past. Have that conversation in the mirror so that you can develop the muscle of retrieving validation from yourself. My grandmother told me, don't ever seek validation from somebody else. Little did I know, I would go through foster care. I would live in a dozen places by the time I was an adult. And just like you're saying, Annie, it can't be your surroundings that's giving you validation. You've got to find a way to generate it yourself. Now, can you connect this dot for me? What's the connection between authenticity and originality?
I think that when you are original, you're coming up with material that is unique into yourself. When you're authentic, you're coming up from a soul level. Your authenticity is the very fabric of your being, who you are, your core self. When you're original, you're creating new material. You're creating stuff that's new and unique to you, which is fine. It sort of goes hand in hand. But to be authentic doesn't necessarily mean that what you're authentic about is an original thought.
Okay.
Right? I think that for me, let's take a look at, right now, I'm known as a branding ninja. That's the award that I've just received. It's sitting on the mantle behind me.
Did you say a branding ninja?
That's right. I'm known as a branding ninja. I'm known as a ninja just because of all the different hats that I wear. But I think that my journey into branding began at a time when social media was not used as a forum for business. It began at a time, I began my branding work, or my branding of my company and the things that I do, long before it was the done way of things. I was viewed as, and I was looked upon by those who were around me at the time as being strange, that why am I using Facebook for business? Why am I constantly posting? Why am I putting myself? Because I was building my name as a brand. And so when you're building a personal brand, which is what I was doing, a lot of it has to do with who you are as a person. And so I was putting that out. Well, for the longest time, I was ridiculed about it. I was made to feel small about it. And this is after I became an adult. I had experience in many areas, yet this was the first time I was broaching into the entrepreneurial world, and I was not familiar with that. And there I was trying to do it, and there wasn't a lot of information available at the time that I had started. You know, it was when I started writing my book, and when my book got published, and now when people are reading it, and now I get comments coming back to me going, wow, how can I connect with you?
What's the name of your book?
Well, the name of the book is called How to Be Your Badass Self, Using Your Inner Energy, a guide to using your inner energy for brand success. It's shiny. It's such a shiny cover, but it's available on Amazon. And the beautiful part about it is that the book is definitely a journey between the personal to the professional, but it's really a core look at yourself. Who are you as a person? What do you stand for? Are you what you study? Are you what you have gone to school for? Are you what you were hired for in your job? Or is there another component to you that you really haven't explored yet? That really is the fundamental building block of you as a person. And that needs to come out so that your brand is as authentic as you. What happens is when someone builds a business and their business isn't reflective of who they are as a person, that's when they're not going to be able to really build customer reliance, customer trust into their brand. So you have to really say that today, the personal brand is equivalent to understanding your professional brand or your company brand. So a lot of large companies are looking at trying to personalize their brand to give the human aspect to it, because that's what was missing from them. So you'll see a lot of larger companies like Apple and some of the other companies that are using the human connection, right? The families, they're looking at the family, they're branding it as so that people are able to relate to it in a smaller sense. So as a small entrepreneur, you have an advantage that way. Now, the only disadvantage is if you're putting something out for your product, your service, or your brand, and it's not reflective of who you are as an individual. No longer can you say that your social media is no longer applicable to what you do professionally. The first thing that people do really is to connect what you do on social media to what you say out there on other professional platforms. And if there's a discord between the two, you're going to find that you're not going to be having customers come to you, right? So,
you know what? I want to unpack this moment right here because this is absolutely huge. And we have a question first. Yolanda Riley says, do you think people change their personal brand based on the company they work for or others' expectations?
well, it does happen that when you're working for someone else, that you need to make sure that what you're thinking as a person is in alignment with who it is that you're working with, because otherwise, why are you there? You will not be able to be your authentic, true self and be able to harness your full energy and potential if you're not able to align those thoughts. You wouldn't want to actually be working for anyone whose morals, values, ethics, principles are not in alignment with you.
Mm-hmm. And also,
it's stressing you out, right? When you go to work and you're doing something that's not in alignment who you are as a person, you're going to find yourself putting an additional stress onto yourself that you really don't need to have in the first place.
Absolutely. And what I would also add to that is when we talk, see, from the beginning of this conversation, we were talking about self-esteem and how that self-esteem results in your ability to validate yourself, which then becomes a strong personal brand. And so I want people to understand out there that as you become impressed with the businesses that you see happening all around you, that the key that you need to hone in on is first making sure that your sense of self-esteem is intact, which involves having an effective narrative conversation with yourself about who you are, where you're going, and then you'll be able to achieve your own personal brand. Once you achieve your own personal brand, then your business is an extension of that personal brand. And when people buy into your business, they feel like they're buying into you, because people can tell when you are not your business, and then they are discouraged from making a purchasing decision. And so when you want people to buy into your brand needs to be a seamless transition from your personal self to your entrepreneurial self. And that is the key to becoming a millionaire. So I appreciate the conversation that we're having right now, because if you have a personal brand that's strong enough to become an entrepreneurial brand, then guess what? You're not looking for somebody else's company to work for anyway. We have another comment from Jason Matthews. He says, she is now in the 3rd round and in the 8th position of October Cover of the Month award. Good luck for the award, Ani Kochi.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks for the shout out. Jason's a very dear friend of mine. In fact, I do want to give Jason a shout out because Jason believed in me and my journey before I even believed in myself. He was one of those motivators that stood on the side for me and cheered me along and said that I can actually do it. And he's really been and someone who has seen the journey from before I even knew I was going to be on that journey. So having said that, right now, I want to actually speak to some of the youth who may be tuned in or who hear this later. You might be someone who is 14, 15, 16, young person. You've had a lot of, perhaps you've had the short end of life given to you. You've had situations where you have found yourself unhappy and upset because of the way circumstances have become. I want to tell you one thing. Each one of you, you're beautiful. Each one of you have a special gift. Find your special gift. Find what you're good at. And you know what? Polish that stone up. Every single day, do a little bit. If you need to have that picture on the wall to be where you are, put it up there. If you believe in yourself to the point that you're going to be on that jet, that's going to be a private jet that you're going to be flying in, put it up there. You might not get there tomorrow, but that step that you take today towards that dream is one step closer than if you didn't take that step in the first place. So that's what I want to say. Each of you have a vision. You might decide that you have something and you want to try it out. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't wait for perfection. Start today. Work on that every single day. You don't need to be perfect. You are perfect in the moment. You are perfect as you are right now. So don't wait for someone else's perception of perfection to motivate you to be your own motivator. Be your own motivator right now. Fail forward. That means that you may not find yourself doing everything in the right way right away, but the only way you're going to be able to learn how to do it is if you take that step to doing it in the first place, right? So take that step.
Wow.
So much that each of you have brilliance that you need to share with the world. Don't worry about your age. Age is just a number. They do say that, right? You have got stuff in your head that a lot of people can't figure out even decades older than you. So instead of being arrogant about it in either way, whether it's an older person or a younger person, work in conjunction. Find avenues where you can support perhaps someone who doesn't have the technological ability to bridge what they're going through right now with COVID. So what you're seeing right now is a lot of people in their 30s and 40s have found themselves waylaid. They're at home and they're struggling with trying to take their brand, their stuff to a digital world. You guys who are listening, who are young people, you guys eat, breathe, and sleep digital world, right? You guys can do that with your eyes closed. So you know what? Find those entrepreneurial opportunities where you can help be the digital bridge between those people who don't have those skills or need help with it. You can actually become their coaches, right?
Wow. You know what? I wish we had a lot more time with you. You are obviously someone who is a wealth of knowledge, wisdom, and but we were in pre-production and you told me that you had a movie coming out. Was that correct?
I do. There is a film on my life that's happening, and it's a biopic called Fear, Face Everything and Rise. And the release of it is on October 27th. Riley, you can probably share the link where people can register. It's, I believe, half price Tuesdays. We call that here in Toronto or in Canada. Tuesdays are pardon me?
What's the name of the movie?
Fear, Face Everything and Rise.
Okay.
So on my Facebook profile picture, as well as on my cover photo, you will see the link to that, and I will share the link with you later on so that you can share it with your fans.
Okay. Now, for all of our followers and supporters out there, I went out there and found the trailer of her movie. Y'all know I did. So sit back, and I'm going to play a brief trailer of her movie. This is phenomenal. Give me 1 second. So 1 second here.
As young children, we are invincible. We think that we can do anything we want in the world. Life and everything is a possibility. And every single one of our dreams will become true. We can be that princess or the Superman or a firefighter whatever it is, we have imagination and we have the ability to think that we can conquer the world. But as we grow up, each disappointment, each pain that we experience, each thing that we go on in which we've become hurt causes us to shrivel up a little bit inside. Now, it could be that other people tell us what to do and we're forced to listen to them. But if you keep doing that, then you proceed to die a little bit inside each time. And you lose that voice, that innocence, that desire to dream. Looking at my life, I see that there's a long way to go for success. I still see hills and valleys, twists and turns. I've had a lot of challenges, and I've had to make a lot of difficult decisions along the way. I've stood at difficult crossroads that have defined my future life. I needed to sacrifice things that I truly loved to achieve something bigger. I had to find the courage within myself. This is my real story. This is not just the tip of the iceberg. This is the whole me. My losses and pains, my despair and defeat. It's not easy to tell, but this is the life millions of other women live every day.
Absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Can you talk to us about what went into that project and where is it going to be located? What are we going to get out of it as a people?
Wow, what went into that project? My heart, my soul, my sweat, my tears went into that project. That was my life. That was, it was hard. It takes a lot of courage to share your story with the world and have them view it, because we often hide. We put out this curtain to the public, right? This is what we are. We project it. Everyone's Facebook profile has this perfection about it. You know, the picket fence house, the perfect family, and no one wants to talk about what's behind all of that. If there are any problems, you know, you brush it under the carpet. Well, I was done brushing things under the carpet. I was like, you know what? This is what my life is, and this is what I went through, and this is what I had to get to where I am, so that you understand who I am and what I stand for. And that took courage, because I know that when it comes out, there are going to be people who view it and they're going to perhaps be resentful, perhaps feel uncomfortable, because I have now taken the lid off of can of worms that has been festering for many, many years. I think that the conversations that I have in the film are not about the Indian community, not about women. I think it's about just people in general. When you find yourself sidetracked in life because you've been living someone else's dream. This is not a film that is just for someone who's middle-aged or someone who is young. I think youth can take something from it. Men and women can take something from it. You can find yourself walking in the shoes that I've walked in, because this is a movie about life. This is a movie about being able to live your dreams and being able to believe in yourself when no one else really believed in you. It's something that I think that there's something that will be a takeaway for anyone who's watching this film. And I think that that is the number one story. Fear, you have two options in life. You can either forget everything and run away from it. Forget everything you know, forget everything you've been taught, forget everything you know in yourself. Or you can just say, you know what, I've got this. And this is what I did, is I said, I got this. I will face everything and I will rise above it. You have to go through those moments, Cedric, in life where it crushes you. So for me, those crushing moments, I use them as a sort of a phoenix moment where you rise from the ashes of those defeats to say, there's more in me. I'm not ready to go away yet.
Absolutely. So listen, like I said before, unfortunately, we are rounding third base here. I'm sure that you have other things you have to do tonight. It's got a couple more questions if you can answer them quickly, and then you can move on to your next thing. What is survival to you?
Every moment.
What is success to you?
Sleeping well at night.
What is greatness to you?
Whoa, that one's tough. When you're able to, I think my biggest fulfillment is when I'm able to help someone else. That's when I'm the most powerful, I think, is when I feel like I'm able to serve in my capacity as a leader, and I'm able to help someone else. That's greatness.
Annie Koshi, I want to let you know that I've listened to your story today. I've heard your journey and I was inspired by it. I want to give you your respect today while you're still living. You could have been anywhere in the world, literally, but you decided to join us here today on America's Next Motivator. And I want to give you your crown today. Polish it up and provide it while you can still see it and wear it. And let you know and let the world know that Annie Koshi is America's Next Motivator.
Thank you so much, Cedric. That is awesome. I wear that crown with pride. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. You know what? This is a great platform and it's a great opportunity for us to continue. You know, it's one life at a time, right? One person at a time, one moment at a time. Each interaction that you make that interaction such an amazing interaction that that person leaves feeling so good about themselves.
Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by. All right.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.
All right. See you later. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in for our conversation with Annie Koshi. And as you may know, because you've been here several times, the show is not over. It's not over because we have a little bit more to talk about with a special announcement from some near and dear great people who are in the backstage area. And here they are right now. We have Ambition the Poet. How you doing, sir?
Hey, how's it going, man? How's everything going?
It's going pretty good, pretty good. And we have Carlita Orta here with us today. How you doing, Carlita?
Hi. How are you guys?
Doing good.
Good.
All right, y'all. So we have a surprise for y'all today. And that surprise is that the three of us have come together to create a motivational conference for youth in foster care and youth and families clear across the country. So I'm excited to show you all the founding members of the team who are going to be providing motivation to thousands of young people here in America during the pandemic, where they need motivation. They need a compelling experience, and we're going to provide that for them. So can y'all take a second and introduce yourselves? We can start with Carlita.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carlita Orta, and I am a positive youth advocate for youth in foster care. So I'm super excited to be working with Cedric and Ambition, and I just know it's going to be a great thing. I'm really looking forward to it. So stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Wow. Ambition?
My name is Ambition the Poet. You can just call me Ambition. What am I? I'm just some regular little guy.
Stop.
I'm just some regular poet. No. My name is Ambition the Poet. What I do I am a foster care poet, which means my job is to go into artists' venues to talk to different creators around the globe, talking about the stories of foster care. There's so many times that people have no idea what's going on and they're not aware. So my job is to come in and give the stories of that. I'm also the CEO of a children's clothing line called Ambicito by Harper, which is one of the only clothing lines for brown children all around America. I was going into stores and I didn't see any clothing that was really made and designed for brown skinned children. And so I went in the lab and was able to design these little characters called chibis. And if those that love anime know exactly what a chibi is little cute characters that the kids
I was
love.
going to ask you, what is a chibi? Okay.
You saw it on Dragon Ball Z. It's basically almost like just a smaller version of Goku in that particular season. It's just a smaller version of a human-like form. They usually don't have a nose, and they have very big eyes. They're very cute, and so they're based around children. And so that brand was really built for them, and I'm so proud of that. And I also, I'm a curator of so many events that we could talk about on another day.
Yeah, And Carlita, let's popcorn it around a little bit so people can get to see all three of us. What can you explain to us a little bit about the work that you do exactly as well?
Yeah, so I have been a youth advocate for youth in foster care for the past 10 years. I was teaching a special curriculum on interdependence versus independence, transitioning youth out of care and basically planning them for, the society that lies ahead. So just making sure that our youth are prepared, making sure that our social workers are on the field prepared. And I worked as a youth mentor. So, this is my field I love to play in, and I love to give back, and I love to invest in our youth. We do know that our youth are our future and they are the next generation ahead. So if we can all just, continue to tap in and explore our resources and share knowledge, I think that it's a beautiful thing with the new ones, with the new generation coming about.
I think that is so great that you actually work in the field now, and you get to be not only a role model, but you get to be a leader and a decision maker in the lives of young people in the system. A lot of the time when we grow up in the system, we don't actually get to work in that space and give back in that way. And so the fact that you're doing that is the perfect scenario of what goes around comes around, in a good way.
Yes.
Because you're now there with the firsthand experience of what it feels like in care. And so you can make suggestions that really help people out in life. So I think that that's phenomenal.
Absolutely. We're all three of us are living proof of success. So I think that representation is such a vital thing when it comes to, just seeing faces that you typically normally wouldn't see that are operating and fully functioning. So I'm happy to be a part of that. And I'm happy to create space within this PIN conference that we have coming about. So I'm super excited.
Absolutely. And for those people who might not know much about me, I spent years of my life in the foster care system before becoming a motivational speaker. And one of the reasons why I wanted to create this conference was because I routinely call people, I call agencies, I call organizations, and I say, hey, my name is Cedric Riley. I'm a business owner. I used to be in care, and I want to provide a motivational experience for youth in care. And when I've done that, people have not always known where to direct my call, who to put me in touch with. And I realized a lot of these agencies, with all due respect, they don't have a motivation department. They don't have a motivation department, and they don't have an area, a fiduciary area labeled motivation. So I see a huge need for us to come together and provide motivational experiences for youth in care. Not necessarily your idea of motivation being a form of information. So for me, there's a difference between learning survival skills and motivation. I didn't actually get to see a motivational speaker until even after I was adopted. And so if it wasn't for adoption, I might have never even seen a motivational speaker in my life. And so my thought is, what can we do to get motivational speakers, poets, and effective organizational work that's going to be a motivative experience in front of young people in care? There's 400,000 youth in care who are potential recipients of whatever we can put together. And I said, you know what? This is not something that I should try to do by myself. This is something that I should seek to accomplish with some like-minded individuals whose hearts are in the right place. And here we are.
Yes, here we are.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad that we came together. And I do think that's important. One of the things about the system is that there's systems, and that's no knock on that.
Yep.
Our system comparative to the rest of the world is actually pretty good. But with a system, they don't have creativity. That is the one thing lacking in a lot of systems of America today. They don't have creativity. And so sometimes you have to do something called build your own empire, which me and Cedric talked about on my conference. Is basically Cedric said, enough is enough. I called, I tried, and no result. And what am I to do? Go home and go to sleep and complain, or build my own conference, my own platform? And I'm glad to do it. Let's do it. It's time to build our own and see if we can make things in our in our vision. Definitely some of the things that you brought up with this conference. We're talking about cooking. We're going to be talking